In this episode I am doing everything from decaling to finishing work. First I started cutting a paper copy of the decal to have a look how well it fits on the fuselage. It was not too bad, but neither it was perfect. Also I masked some of the windows. The decal should lay down on it, and with some softening solution the mask should be removed. That was the plan. I once again cleaned the model with window cleaner and started decaling. The decal showed some issues after I took it out of the water. It wrinkled on the edges, not a good sign. Altogether I used 4 decal sheets. The main one from Brazil Decals, a second one from DECALS for details, the third was the original one from Zvezda, and I had to make my own for some very specific items. You know what that means. Let's start masking. I used the paper copy once again to orientate the masking tape correctly. That was quite a challenge. I didn't like the decals anyways. I will only use titles and some small bits and pieces. Since the titles and the star are to be used from the sheet, I had to match the blue color. That was not easy. Neither Tommy and nor MRP had some kind of royal blue that matches. The only paint I could use was Revell acrylic. The enamel paints were no option, cause I go over it with lacquer and the chemical reaction might be worse than over acrylics. I mixed Revell 51 with white and added lots of chemicals. Revell's acrylic paints are outstanding in terms of color range and variety. But the composition and its attributes are terrible. The only way to make it work was to add paint retarder and Tamiya thinner. It looks a lot more grainy than all other paints. If you have any idea on how to make this paint spraying fine, let me know in the comments. I used MRP Super Silver combined with some black to darken it a little bit. After that I masked off the model. Even though I cleaned the surface, it chipped on 2 spots. A bit annoying to redo the spots, but it has to be done. To level the surface I sanded the spot and repainted it. It worked quite well and finally I could go on. My chosen aircraft is Echo Bravo Victor. Actually, I could have taken the other LL757, which is Echo Bravo uniform. But the font on the registry was incorrect, so I didn't bother doing it anyways. I used my trusty Graphtec, which is able to cut very sharp small letters. Finally, I started decaling. The titles and logos were used. No softening solution works on Brazil decals. It was quite frustrating to try all of them, and it simply doesn't work. Then I tried to mix my own, and I found out that very strong thinner or paintbrush cleaner works. I had to be really careful, chances were high to destroy the whole decal, and even the paint around and underneath it. The silver window frames were used from the Air Tours Daco sheet. They look much finer and softening solutions work on them. Since the decals have a different spacing, I cut out every single window. In the end I applied 102 decals only for the cabin windows. It is hard to catch on camera, but the results are as good as expected. This is the self-made sheet for the registration and the stabilizer trim scale. Although I did not plan it, in the end I used quite a lot of the Zvezda decals for detailing. They are not perfect, but there is nothing else available yet. decaling is finished and the next step is clear coating. As usual, this is done with MRP. The special thing about it is the final finish. The LL birds are exposed a lot to heat and sun. Usually their aircraft's paint looks faded and almost flat. I wanted to represent the 757 as a workhorse and not brand new. I chose MRP semi-gloss. I sprayed a lot of layers and went for some sanding afterwards to level the surface. The problem with this finish is a bit tricky. I want the window glass to be super shiny gloss, while the rest of the fuselage should look faded. But there is a way to make this work. First, I polished the windows only, so they look shiny and clear. When this was finished, you know what's coming. Masking 102 windows. So here we go. So the windows are super shiny and the fuselage is very sanded. To give the final touch, I thinned down MRP semi-matte to approximately 50% and sprayed it with good pressure. MRP has some great self-leveling characteristics. They are even better with additional thinner. This is why the final finish doesn't need any polishing and looks a bit dull, as desired. It takes a few hours until the paint is properly cured and completely level. The nav lights were hand-painted with Tamiya clear red and a mixture of clear green and blue. Weathering with the airbrush and masks came next. The real aircraft has a lot of hand-painted repairs. I masked a lot of patches and used some highly thin clear matte paint with a drop of white. The leading edges were painted with MRP Super Silver and afterwards coated with a washing-type fluid to decrease the silver shine and make them look a bit more used. Next step were the cockpit windows. I decided to paint the frame with my own masks, this way I could make sure everything fits and has the correct geometry. That's it. The bird gets into shape slowly. The next video is the final one. It will include the landing gear, all antennas, the final assembly and weathering.